Family constellations. This work created by Bert Hellinger to work on everything related to difficulty in the family, but actually working with everything that has to do with difficulties in life. We'll see in this video that there are three orders, three principles that are at the base of all the work of family constellation. These are called the three orders of love, and they need to be in balance. So when they are disrupted, they create problems that can also cascade down to following generations. So this video is to explain you what actually these three rules, orders are, what they really mean, and how they get disrupted, and what they need to be rebalanced. To make it really easy to understand, I created a PowerPoint that I'm going to share so that you can follow with me. So, when you are in balance with the three orders of love, what you obtain, what you are actually doing is you are taking your own place in your family system. So not the place of someone else, not so on. You are taking your place. The essence of all three, you could say, is taking your own place. So family, it's a system. Different elements, different people are combined and they become a unity, the family that is bigger than the sum of all the people that compose the family. The parts of a system are organized together, and when they can execute function that would be otherwise impossible. But to understand how all-encompassing the concept of system is, let's look at more basic level, even more basic than this. If you look at cells, and a group of cells create an organ, a group of organs creates a human body. If you add to the human physical body personality, desires, awareness, then you have a human being, and those are all systems. If you put human beings together, they become family. A number of families together become a city, a village. A number of city creates countries, and altogether we create humanity. If you add also the stones, the plants, the animals, then we have a planet together with air and water. That's a system. And then we go in the macro system, the solar system. All the planets create the solar system. All the system connected to a star create a galaxy, and all the galaxy create the universe. So this is how essential to reality systems are. So balancing the universe. The entire universe is organized in systems of different size. A system always needs to be in balance to function properly. And there is always a consequence when there is something that brings the system out of balance. So if an element inside of a system does not occupy its place, we experience imbalance. If one element takes the place of another element, we have imbalance. The third, if one element doesn't perform its function and let other element execute its function, we have imbalance. So if there is an imbalance in the family system, specifically, so if there is a member of the family that belongs to the family but it's excluded, or if there is a hierarchical order that is not respected, or if the giving and taking is out of balance, what happens is the family searches a new balance. So there is an energetic movement that makes that the family normally unconsciously for the better deal of it, tries to regain balance. And what can happen is that there is healing and the balance is restored. Sometimes a family does not manage to restore the balance, and then it stops. So first there are only daughters that are born, and then there's no children being born anymore. Where do the imbalances in the family come from? When you understand where these imbalances come from, you start looking at how the family system works. And you start to get clarity on what makes that there are maybe some financial problem, maybe conflict, maybe sickness, maybe death, say, then you have the opportunity to bring awareness, healing, and restore the balance ultimately. So understanding how the family, your own family system work, but also in general, how family system work in general, it's the key, it's the starting point to look at what brings imbalance. So the 3 orders of love, I mentioned them really shortly. The first one is belonging. This rule says that every person that belongs to the family system has the right to belong to the system, independently from his or her actions, lack of actions, or event that occurred. We'll look into, now in a moment, we're going to go into details with regards to what qualifies you as member of the family system. For now, the second order is hierarchy. In every family, each member has his own place, depending on when you are born and who is born before you and who is born after you. And so you have a specific place in the hierarchy, and you need to respect that. So we'll look also for this one, we'll look into the specific, what are the most important hierarchy that you really need to pay attention to, how they are disrupted, and what needs to be done to restore them. The third order of love is the one that about the giving and taking and the balance in giving and taking. There is a necessary balance that depends also on your place in the hierarchy. And if this balance is disrupted, there are consequences. And the giving and taking is not per se just about money, but is also giving and take of attention, love, care, time. So it's really energetic, it's really complex. So the belonging. How do you define who belongs to your system? So you belong to your system, you are born in that system. Your biological parents belong to that system, also your adoptive parents if you're adopted. The children you will have, your siblings, your grandparents, uncle and aunt, so the siblings of your parents, your grandparents, great-grandparents, siblings of grandparents and great-grandparents. Who also belongs to the system are the babies that have been miscarried, aborted, died at birth, illegitimate children. Also really important, belonging to the system are the ex-partners, your ex-partners, and we're talking about romantic partners here, your parents, ex-partners, and also your grandparents. So there is also a really healthy gratefulness that you can have for the ex-partner that's left their then partners to allow the new course of history to take place so that those children and grandchildren could be born. Another category of people that tend to be affected by a disbalance in the order of belonging are victims and perpetrators. Think, for instance, when there is a war and people that are adult in Europe now tend to have grandparents of great-grandparents that have been in war, and they could have been victim of crimes and maybe being forgotten because it was too painful to talk about it, Or they could have also relatives that have been perpetrators, and this can trigger shame. So you stop to talk about that, and you end up excluding these people from the family. Another group is the people that have helped the family. And the same applies to people that have been really important. Think of nannies, really important teachers, or people of that kind of that had a big influence on the life of someone of the family in a certain period. So how does imbalance manifest? When instead of having people belonging to the family, you exclude them. And that can happen because there is great pain associated to that member of the family. Think of children that are stillborn, and it's really difficult to talk about it because it's so painful. Or shame, when a member of the family ends up in the psychiatry, or criminality, imprisonment, war crimes, or sexual behavior like prostitution. So when the family exclude a member, it can be via rejecting them, forgetting them, so stop talking about them, letting them alone in difficult situation, silence. Think of the grandfather that comes back from war and never talks about what happened during the war, or the things that you just stop talking about it. Another exclusion is when someone is labeled a black sheep. Another way that people get excluded is literally by being excluded from inheritance. What the systemic theory teaches us is that if you belong to the system, there is no reason whatsoever that justifies you being excluded. So a place in the family, so just we do that by saying it. You have a place in our family. You have a place in my heart. That's how you literally do that, because as I write here left, it is an inside job. It's not something that changes the relationship you have with the excluded or with the people that excluded that person. It's not something you have to communicate. There is no really external, there's no instruction, there's nothing that needs to change outside of yourself. At the same time, it can happen that moving the energy of the system, because we do that with a constellation, that you notice some change in the energy of family members. Enjoy that, but that's not why we do that. We do that to restore an internal balance, to include, to reconcile, and to honor. The second order of love is hierarchy. So who is born after needs to acknowledge who is born before. There is a respect for seniority. So the most typical example of hierarchy is children and parents. So parents are born before you, child, and so they have a seniority. So they are higher in the hierarchy. They are the big ones, and you are the little one. The same applies also to younger siblings and older siblings. Also in company, imagine that a new manager is hired in a company, and he arrives as his secretary is already working in the company for 20 years. She's just a secretary, but she has 20 years experience in the company. Based on the hierarchy, there is a certain respect that this newly appointed manager owes to this experienced colleague. The imbalance manifests when children judge parents, and when younger siblings are trying to not to, be in their place, try to overpower the older, or bossy them around, or refuse their role as younger sibling. What happens when we judge is we say we are better than you. So I know more, I am better, I can judge you. Maybe I think I'm smarter, or maybe I also am smarter, more educated, quicker on my feet. But this is not a reason to disrespect the seniority of their parents. When we do that, there are consequences that I'm about to illustrate. Sometimes it manifests this violation of the hierarchy also in a positive way. The taking care of the parents, and we'll see in a moment also how that works. And there is a way we can support them, but from the place of the child. When we know so much more, we may inadvertently subvert hierarchy by becoming the caretaker of our parents and feeling superior, and even if unconsciously, we assume a perspective of superiority. So the non-hierarchically correct way to relate to our parents could be offering or supporting them financially, because we have more and they may have less. But then there is a kind of interference. There is a kind of not respecting their ability to live their life, to take care of themselves. Even if they are asking. Also taking care of practical things, arranging all sorts of things for your parents because it's quicker, it's easier for you and stuff. But it's almost like taking the place of, or becoming the friend, the confidant, the therapist even of your parents, give advice, teaching them how to do things. Really, this subversion, this kind of, you are not the friend, the confidant. It's not imbalance that your parents confide in you, tell you about their problem in a relationship, for instance. And I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just giving some information so that at this stage can be easier to understand if the violation of the hierarchy order of love may be happening to you. When our parent, as let's say your father had a fight with his brother, so there is resentment between them, and you start to resent your uncle just as a loyalty to your father, even though between you and your uncle nothing happened. That is also where you violate the hierarchy by a kind of taking over you something that is of your father in this example. So that's a kind of a loyalty that's where you kind of put yourself on the same level as your father. So, oh, if you do that, then I'll do that as well. You know, if that's important for you, I will do that. When it comes to brother and sister, the way that this balance manifests is an older sister or more than one sister, and then the younger was a brother, but because it was a brother, so was a man, he would get a certain seniority inside of the family for gender-related preferences. So that's a way that the hierarchy can be violated for gender reason. When I start a relationship with a partner and I start a family, that family where I am the mother or father of the children that will be born has precedence over the family that I was part of as a daughter. So when I start a family, my new family has precedence over my family of origin. Then when there is a separation and there are so children from the first relationship and there is a second relationship of the parent, the children from the first relationship have precedence over the new partner. Then when I have children from a second marriage, so I have children from the first marriage and then there are children from a second marriage, the unity created, the system created with the new partner and the younger children as precedence. That's because the younger children need more help, assistance, they are younger. This said, the new partner and the new children will need to respect and to honor the first partner and the children born before, so the children from the first relationship. Last but not least, because this is really important, the bond between the two romantic partner, It's more important as precedence over the relationship between each of the partners and their children, and also their parents. To understand the meaning of what is the problem for you personally when you, instead of taking the place of the child with regards to your parents and the rest of the family, you step up and you take care of your parents. I said it's not about them. The hierarchy rule is not about doing the right thing for them. It's about doing the right thing for you. So this is a kind of a visual of what it is like to be you, the little one, and to have behind you your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, great-uncle, great-great-uncle, and from each member and from the entire system together, you get genetic material, you get talents, you get experiences, you get memories. There is so much richness, power, life force, and all these people are big ones. They all came before you, so they are all hierarchically higher than you. But that's a beautiful thing because they can all give you so much. That's how it would look like as an adult child of two parents that feel supportive. You have them behind you, you have them supporting you. You can be an adult, look in front of your future and feeling that you have access to all the energy, all the talents, all the system richness, all the life force and all the power. When you renounce that, when you put yourself in the position of the parents and you start to judge them, taking too much over of their responsibility, you have two main results. The first one is you don't have parents anymore because you broke this connection with the family tree. So now you are completely alone. You have no support. And it may feel like, I do everything alone and I'm okay. But if you're honest with yourself, there's a lot of things that do not work because you do everything on your own. And this is also not to judge or to say it's all your fault, because if this happened, probably something went wrong. I mean, children do have a tendency to take over the parents and protect them and take care of them. But if a parent is solid in his parents' shoes, you can still, stay in your place. You can be helped to stay in your place. So you have not done this alone. You didn't get in this place alone. You can get out of it alone. That's the good news. The other thing that happened, you can carry too much weight that is not yours. So you take over yourself, responsibility, worries, even sickness sometimes that are not yours, that you are out of loyalty and out of a certain kind of misguided sense that you are better than your parents, that you may take over you because you think you're better, you can handle it. It's too much. So this is also an inside job. When you want to heal the hierarchy or order of love, you're also doing mainly an inside job. And I add a reality check, because it is a fact that you are born years after your parents. Your parents were normally adult when you were born already, so they are senior. There is no reason whatsoever you should not respect their destiny, their ability to live their life. And what is important for the healing here is to be grateful. Your parents, even the worst parents of the world, they did one thing right. That is also the most important. They gave you life. So connecting with the gratefulness for that gift of life, it's really important to restore the hierarchy and to restore that inner peace in the relationship with your parents. You cannot pay it back, but you make it good by being grateful. So gratefulness for the gift of life, it's a really important thing that on its own acknowledge that they are senior than you are. What you can also do is say, I respect you and your destiny, honoring that they have the ability to handle their destiny. And this hierarchy order of love is sometimes difficult. However, it is really important. Imagining your parents in front of you. First, you imagine your father. You imagine and say, you are and will always be my father. I am and I will always be your daughter or son. And you repeat that, and then you do the same with your mother. You are and you will always be my mother. I am and I will always be your child. The third order of love is the one of balance between giving and taking. So, in the relationship between parents and children, parents give and children receive. Inside a relationship between two romantic partners, there is a 50-50 share. Inside a friendship as well, there should be an equal exchange. How does the imbalance manifest? When the children take the place of the parents, for instance, they start to give instead of taking, because between children and parents, there is really just giving and taking. It is sometimes a bit difficult to translate this to your specific case, but the example that I gave with the disruption of the hierarchy should help. So every time, for instance, there is any kind of judgment, even patronizing judgment, the sense of superiority, you are not really taking, you are giving with a certain unconscious arrogance, if you want. When it comes to partners, the exchange should be 50-50. Sometimes it's not. And what happens then is that the partner that receives much more, tends to leave. And the partner that has been giving so much does not understand why the other person left. But when you receive so much and you do not manage to keep it 50-50, you feel that the other is giving so much that you can never do the same. You start to feel really uncomfortable in the relationship, and sometimes that becomes a push to leave the relationship because it's not, it doesn't feel good. Something else that can happen is that when someone is receiving a lot more than is giving, that it's invited almost energetically in a kind of a child role. And the one that is giving a lot without realizing, it's polarizing himself or herself into a parent position. And that creates a lot of problem in terms of relationship, because the kind of relationship a mother and a child have, or a father and a child, is really different from a relationship romantic partners have. So things like sexuality starts to feel funny, or the decision-making process feels a bit off, and there is a sense of one following the other one deciding, and even the one that is giving more may start to feel dissatisfied, missing a kind of a partnership without realizing how they are contributing to how the energy plays, how the patterns are created. The third situation where there is often a disbalance in giving and taking is when the child is born. So there is this need to take care of the child that may crystallize into giving more attention to the child than to the partner and the relationship. So the partner that is not the main caretaker may be a bit, receiving less and suffering from that, and the relationship is suffering from that. And sometimes for the caretaker partner, it's difficult to understand how to keep that balance, how to be a good parent and to be present in the relationship. Are new things. The experience to have a child is something new, and it's times difficult to navigate, with consequences in the balance of giving and taking. And here I'm going back to this. The relationship between the partner as priority over the children. Meaning, yes, a child is born, you need to take care of the child. There's no question about it. But you were a couple before you were parents. So the couple can never suffer because of something that is introduced later in the system. The children, they benefit from the bond, a solid bond between the parents. That's the thing that is most important for them. When couples separate, divorce, what they found out is that children do not suffer so much of the divorce. They suffer if they don't feel that the parents can work together. So when they can, even if divorced, children get what they need. When the couple does not have priority over the children, what happens is that the child takes the role of the partner. So, for instance, if we have a mother that sacrifices the relationship with her husband and focus on the child may energetically end up taking the place of a partner for this mother, excluding the father. And this is no good for the mother, not for the father, not for the child. Only the child tends to have less power of agency up to a certain age. So it's important for the parents to stay sharp about this kind of thing, also because they are senior. They are the one that put these children into the world. It's good to stay alert, to keep the bond of the couple solid and as a priority. Okay, what do we need? This is again an inside job because it's about setting boundaries. As a child that maybe is asked of their parents to take a bigger role than it's supposed to, you can set boundaries. You can feel what belongs to your role as a child and stick to that. You can set boundaries in your relationship. When you feel that you are giving too much, stop giving. And the same in friendship. Respect the destiny of another person. When we look at parents that are senior, that may be much less successful, less smart, have less money, but they were there before we were born. They made it. They are still, they live their life and they deserve our respect for the destiny they have. This is also a way to give them dignity, to honor and respect their ability to face their own challenges. And not because we checked and they can, but because they deserve our respect. They made us. So to answer no can be really loving. To say no sometimes is exactly the right answer. There is this belief in many people that no is rude, no is bad, it's unkind. But that's not true. That's not true. And I would say a no can be a full sentence and can be extremely healthy and really effective for setting boundaries. So if we look back at the 3 orders of love, or better said, how to restore the balance in each of these 3 areas, when it comes to belonging, what we need to do when there is an exclusion is respect the right of belonging to the family members, to every family members. Everybody that belongs to the family system belongs to the family system and can never be excluded. Give them a place in your heart, first and foremost, and give, first of all, a place in your heart to your parents. The parents are the one we most often have issues with in terms of all 3 laws, actually, all 3 orders of law. So first, give a place in your heart to your parents, and then to all the other members of the family, especially the excluded one. An example of parents that can be excluded is by a divorce. It happens less and less, but until 10 years ago, it was really common that a mother and a father would divorce and it would become a fight, and the mother would take the children and the father would be almost excluded. The access to the children being extremely limited because of the mother or because of the father, because there have been also cases of father disappearing, and that would become an exclusion. Really often, that's a way people get excluded in modern time. So it's really important to give a place in your heart also to a parent that you don't have a good relationship with, that you don't manage to see often, that you know you cannot really manage to get along well. Inside job, it happens in your heart. When it comes to hierarchy, acknowledge the seniority of those born before you. We can go back to the parents. Acknowledge that they are the big one. You are the little one. Or the one arrived before you in a job, in a relationship. If you enter in a relationship with someone that has children from a previous relationship, acknowledge your rightful place and set boundaries where needed. If you are, for instance, in the position of seniority and you are not acknowledged that. Give and take. Keep the balance between giving and taking. By harmonically and being aware, being harmonic and being aware. So allow the harmony of giving and taking to take its place, and be aware, be wary of when this does not happen, and speak up, set boundaries. So what we do to identify what is the problem and to do something about it, best way I know is doing family constellation. Because when you have, you may have a problem that is directly a problem with someone in the family, you may have a work-related issue, a relationship-related issue. By constellating, by putting this problem into a constellation, these disbalances would become visible for the facilitator and can be addressed and often healed, not always in one constellation, but it's a powerful work that goes really deep. If this presentation introduction triggered question, write the question, send me the question. I'll try my best to answer them either individually or creating another video with all sorts of questions.